Welcome to Go With Your Flow podcast. My name is Erin Ryan. I'm a licensed acupuncturist. I have a master's degree in traditional Chinese medicine and a bachelor's in nutrition. I am the owner of Crystal Lake Reiki LLC, and it is my absolute pleasure to support healers on the oracle path to stabilizing their six-figure business and to creating a whole new modality. And today I am like jumping out of my skin. I'm like up and down, hopping like a little bunny rabbit or a very, very excited puppy because I have the very incredible Madam Creatrix. She is your emotional support witch. And we are going to riff on, well, it's Valentine's Day. So we are going to talk all about love, and it's love in regards to manifestation for yourself. And so I'm going to be quiet and I'm going to open up the floor for this incredible human who is my client. She is my friend. We went to see the Aurora concert on Thanksgiving. It was a Black Friday. Yeah, it was Black Friday. It was fucking amazing. And so, Madam Creatrix, tell us all about you.
Hi. Yeah, I was telling Erin before this, I'm like, it's so weird to be like presented to people in like a professional capacity because Erin's known me before I was like officially the professional Madam Creatrix. Like I went to Erin and was just like, I have all these things, help. And Erin's like, I'm gonna take these things and I'm gonna help you.
That's my favorite thing to do, right? It's like flesh out like your zone of genius. Like, what were you put here to do? And I mean, it's all you, right? But I just get to support that process, and I love it. I love it more than anything. Oof, so
I
amazing.
yeah, I it no, I everything. I could not be where I'm at if it had not been for Erin and I crossing paths the weird way that we did. I don't even remember friend requesting you, but all of a sudden I was just like, there's this person in my friends list who's doing this stuff, and okay.
Yeah, I remember you. I think you first dropped in for 5 element dragonfire Reiki. You were like, I need to do this. Like, this is a thing. And I was like, oh, okay. You just kind of like popped in out of nowhere, and it was so amazing. So, so
Like,
juicy, so
and
juicy.
it's beautiful too that we're talking about this because like the moment I started my journey was that moment of like finding my people. Like I had gone through the rigmaroles, I had done all the lessons and stuff, and now I'm at this point where I'm like, I'm done having life kind of just take me wherever. I need to start actually doing something with this stuff. And really, it like came to me earlier today that when I started manifesting the life that I wanted, it really was kind of like a love letter to myself. And having me actualize this and realize this was honestly through you because we talk about it in one of your containers about finding your safe people, and that's really what kind of started me on my journey and what kickstarted it because I have these gifts. I'm always here to help people. I just, didn't know how to go about doing that. Also, this is Hazel. This is my familiar. She's also my Reiki Master Kitty because all of my Reiki Master certifications and all the classes she sits in my lap for. So,
She's a smart kitty. She's a smart kitty. She likes the
honorary
energy.
5 element Dragonfire Reiki Master Kitty right here. Um,
Oh my God, she needs to be the mascot.
Seriously, she's definitely a water dragon for sure.
Oh,
Um,
love that.
but like we crossed paths, and had it not been for that, I really wouldn't be here. And not just because like you being my business coach, my teacher, my support, but crossing paths with you allowed me to start living more authentically to myself and embracing who I am. And then also, it led me to these other beautiful souls and pathways who also deepened my journey. And again, I would not be here had it not been for these souls. Like, I started
Yeah.
doing the Dragonfire Reiki, which I was always the person that was like, Reiki's not for me. You know, Reiki was
I
always,
didn't know that. I didn't know
yeah,
that. Okay.
Reiki was
Continue.
not like
Continue.
Reiki was not for me because to me what Reiki has presented itself to me in the past was it was like you met someone that has some sort of Reiki certification, and the way that it's treated, it's like Pokemon cards. Like, well, what are your certifications? What do you do? And it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I think too because I didn't realize what it was. Like what it's presented as is like, well, I do all this stuff and I do all this kind of energy, magic, and healing, and it was not presented me in the way of what it truly was, where its roots were. And it just, life and synchronicities and stuff brought me to you and being like, oh, wait, hold on. And there was dragons. It was the dragons that definitely led it. And I was just like, wait, dragon, fire, energy, and Reiki. I'm like, okay, I'll bite. Okay, I'll bite. Like, and now I took levels 1 and 2 with a different practitioner. Um, so she like ushered in a different modality of Reiki. It's a little more Shakti. So learning how to do it more intuitively than just kind of like, okay, you start at the head, you go about and do your thing. So that was kind of like my initiation to having that better relationship with my body. And then she started going down like her own path and kind of having like her self-discovery thing. And it was just like, at that time I was just like, you know what, I know there's different forms and I'm really drawn to this, so I want to, even though I did 1 through 2 with this person, like I want to redo 1 and 2 through you. And I ended up, doing all of it till to now. So, and it was, had I not do this, it brought me to where I'm at. So all these different connections, like for example, Dawn of Infinite Illuminations. Like,
I love Dawn.
we were practice partners. She was looking for someone to practice with regularly, and I was just like, yeah, actually, if I don't keep doing this, I don't want to end up forgetting it. So she and I would meet every week after we had gotten off work, and we would Zoom call each other, and for an hour and a half, we went we what's the word? We transitioned each week. So we switched off. So 1 week she would give, the next week I would give. And not only did it help us strengthen kind of like our connection on how Reiki works with our gifts, but also we discovered a lot about ourselves doing it. And it was because of Dawn, who was like, Lauren, what are you doing? Like, you're you're ready. You're ready to be going out there and doing this with people. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I am. And Dawn's like, no, you're ready. Like, your guides are telling you, the dragons are telling you, like, you're literally just hoarding. You are a dragon hoarding your gifts right now. And I'm like,
Yes.
uh,
Whoopsie.
yeah. And she's like, well, I have such faith that you're ready that I gave your name to this organization in Woodstock, Illinois, that you'd be willing to be a reader.
Amazing. I didn't know this. And of course, Dawn is one of the teachers of 5e
Yeah.
DFR, and she's gone through all the levels you're about to go through, right? In
Mhm.
April, 2 months, less than 2 months
I
from
know,
now,
I'm
you're going
so
to become a
excited.
teacher as well. Me too. And it's just so beautiful how we can connect and how important it is. We talk about this love letter to ourselves and manifestation and community. That's a huge part of it. And I talk about the 5 connection points that Mama Gaia, she told me, what, 3 years ago now? She was like, you all need these 5 things, and it's connection to God or source divine, right? You know this, Lauren, but I'm going to keep saying it because people listening might not. Connection to Gaia, connection to our highest self, which, if you ask me, that's a dragon. We're all that's our most empowered self. Connection to safe human beings, which is what we're really talking about right now. And then also connection to ascended masters, beings, spirit animal totems, angels, dragons, spirit animals, like all of the things, right? So it's integral. And I've interviewed a lot of healers, and every single one, except for like maybe one, their weakest connection point out of those 5 is safe human beings, is community, is getting the human safe support. And so when we come together like this and we all have these beautiful open hearts, like you do, like I do, fucking magic happens. Like Dawn's another one. It's so beautiful. And I love the idea of you all getting together and like doing that and more. I think it's something beautiful is born from that.
And when
So
you think about it, the very first time, like my very first, like that day, like that weekend was my like I'm coming out of the broom closet again. Like I first came out as Madam Creatrix in 2020. I first launched my business then, And at the time, I had been like tiptoeing around it. I've been a magical practitioner for over 20 years. You know, it's just, I've always kept it inside because I didn't think this was something that I can do professionally. This is not something that is adult worthy. And, you know, I did the corporate stuff because I had been told and had it driven into me that this is what you had to do. I went to college. I got the fancy, expensive piece of paper that is collecting dust in a drawer right now. Like, I did the things. And no matter what I did, my calling found its way in there. And it would show up in random ways. It would show up in my artwork in some form, or a teacher would be like, "Hey, for this project, I'm going to have it be like tarot themed because that's fun." And I'm just like, "Well, that's random. Cool." And it it found its way, and I still fought it. Like, I still fought it until
Very
finally
normal.
I could not fight it anymore. So 2020, I came out of the broom closet. I did it publicly. I was like, here's my first launch of Madam Creatrix. Also, here's my live video of me talking about I'm a witch. This is what this means to me. This is what it is. This is what it is not. And even to this day, my thought process on what that looks like has changed. So, and that's the beauty of it. But yeah, and what I mean to say though is like that very first day was or like that weekend was my first time coming out officially as Madam Creatrix, as your emotional support witch. And that weekend, I met my best friend now, who is going to be the maid of honor at my wedding. Like, Dawn Michelle flew in from, where's she from? New York? Like, she flew in, so she was there that weekend, so we got to meet in person, and then we all got to sit together, like all these dragons sitting in a restaurant together, like talking about like, holy crap, like I just channeled for like 6 hours straight, two back-to-back days, like what?
It's amazing.
That
It was amazing.
weekend
I
was.
loved that. We got to meet, yeah, Michelle Chen was there, also a teacher of
Mhm.
5 element dragon fire Reiki. So we all got to get together and like eat pizza and just be in person and hug each other and just be with each other. And nothing can replace that, right? That connection that we have. And I remember when we did meet for dinner, I remember feeling like sitting there going like, okay, I love this. Like I can just freely talk about everything that I'm experiencing as a channel, as a healer, as, you know, on the oracular path, like just all of it. And these human beings, these beautiful women can receive the fullness of who I am. And not only do you receive me and I receive you, but we really elevate each other, right? One person will say one thing and there will be like, ooh, 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 and this, and this, and this. It's just,
Yeah.
and it's effortless. It's so beautiful and so organic. And this is what we need more of in this community. You mentioned something earlier about Reiki, the sort of like, there's some hubris, there's some spiritual, I call it spiritual ego, where people will get certifications. They'll be like, well, I'm a Reiki master now. And I'm putting it in quotes because, well, technically, yes, we're Reiki masters. I believe that when you become a Reiki master, it's actually, you're saying, I allow Reiki to master me. I allowed it to come into my world and show me. It's actually a humbling title, but not everybody takes it that way. And so you are not the first person, especially high level healer, that has come and said, I saw you and I saw the dragons and something called me, because it's different, right? It's different. And when it's authentic like this, right, then we can really, everything we do can be in service to activate our siren song, right? To activate that authentic self. And that's what happened is you heard the call and you went, I'm doing this, but you had to commit to it, didn't you? Like you had
Yeah.
to really go, okay, this is the thing I'm going to do and nothing's going to stop me.
Yeah.
That's what it
Every time.
takes.
Every time. And trusting that and learning what that trust looks like. Learning what that feels like in my body physically, knowing mentally what's going on. Like, one of the hardest things too when you're on this path, especially when you're the oracle and the priestess, you know, if you're channeling, you have that open channel. One of the hardest things to do initially is defining, like, is this me? Is this my ego? Is this my subconscious? Or is this something outside of myself? And
And what are you channeling if it's outside of yourself? That's
yes,
important to know too, right?
yes, yes. always important. So like there's all these little steps that you have to like come into your own and figure out. Like I can't force it. Or at least I'm not the type of person that can force it. Like I'm not the type of person that can sit down and go, I have a plan and we're going to do the plan. Like that's not how I personally work. I work off of responses. So something happens and my body just naturally responds to it. Like I had this conversation with my guides, you know, when you're having a staff meeting with your spiritual
I
team.
know it well. Yep.
And every time I'm like, why can't you guys give me a heads up? Like just give me a heads up when something big like this is gonna happen or something. Like, wouldn't it be cool if I was like, if you gave me a heads up and I was the most prepared person and I was put together and I can show up and be like, haha, here I am, dominating the situation. And my guides read me to filth. They were like, Lauren, we could tell you the exact date, the exact time, exactly what's gonna happen, and your ass is still gonna procrastinate to the very last second. So, why bother? Why bother?
Why bother?
You work better when you're under pressure. You work better when you've got a fire lit under your ass, and you work better when it's like that response, when something sparks you like that. So, we're gonna keep doing that. And I go, okay.
Okay. Well, and also the energy
Okay.
does shift and change. We're channels, so we have to read the quantum field real
Mhm.
time. So even if they did, right? And like it changes, it shifts, we
Mhm.
shift, we change because free will does exist. Even though I believe we have these soul contracts, I believe we have these things that we came here to do and to say and to be, but at the end of the day, like free will reigns. So that's why everything I create and how I teach everyone to create, as you know, it has to be that fluid structure. It has to hold you, but it has to be safe enough that your channel can open, which is really important, but it has to be fluid enough that whatever wants to come through can come through. It's the same thing with the podcast episode, right? We
Yep.
hopped on, we chit-chatted a little bit about what we think it should be, responding to the energy, what's alive in the field right now, and then that's the spark, right? That's what we follow that, and
We're
it's
both sacral
beautiful.
generators. We should know better to be like, okay, what are we going to talk about?
I
Trying a new
know that was
planet?
funny. Like a
I'm
week
like,
ago, we started talking about yeah.
we
So
should. I had a feeling it was just gonna go this way, you know? Like, I have a feeling it'll present itself and we'll both riff that way. So, and that's the thing that's also kind of like that frustration point. Like, I don't know what I know until somebody asks me or it's that spark. Like
yes. Yes.
response and me trusting my body and knowing, okay, like I was always that person that like again dragon hoarding like information and things. You know, I've got all the books. I've done the things. But like if you were to ask me, "Hey, what do you do?" Just like, "Hey, how should I introduce you?" Uh, I don't know. This isn't a yes or no question. So
I was gonna say neurodivergent humans, which we both, right? I have ADHD, right?
poster
So
child.
we do so much better not with open-ended questions, but with yes or no questions, which is exactly what you're saying. And isn't that interesting too? In human design, we're both sacral generators, and sacral generators do really well with yes or no, right? We
Mm-hmm.
ping it off our womb, our sacral chakra, and then we get that information. And it's so good to know that about yourself. But I'm the same
Yeah.
way. It's like when my husband asks me what you want to eat. I'm like, I don't know. But he's like, well, do you want Mexican? No. Do you
Mm-hmm.
want Italian? No. Do you want, and then we figure it out that way. Unless I have a hyperfixation with food, of course. And then I
That's
know
what I tell
immediately.
my clients too. I'm like, start with the smaller questions because then when the big things come around, the big forking of the paths happen, because you've already started small and you started building that muscle of knowing, okay, my body wants this or my body doesn't want this. Like when the big stuff comes around, you're going to be able to feel it in your body and you're going to know. You're going to know which way
Clearly,
to go.
yes. And you're not going to be
So,
so confused. Exactly.
mhm.
Exactly. That's a beautiful way to do it. And this dovetails into something I teach about, which is your sacred yes and your sacred no. It's so important to get those defined for yourself and understand, like I've heard you say multiple times, like bring it back to the body. And that's what I teach. Like, we have to ping it off our body. We have to know and establish that connection so that we can know what's true for us and what's not true. Because when you are a healer, when you're an empath, when you're an intuitive, when you're an oracle, we are so perceptive, right? We can feel energy so strongly. If you don't have a strong sense of self, you're going to lose yourself, especially going back to human design. I have all of my centers are undefined except for 2. That's a lot. So yay, I can perceive a lot of information, but if I don't really anchor into who I truly am, which is why the dragons step forward, because they are the archetype, they are the representation of what I actually embody, what you actually embody, right? Which is raw electric power, unconditional love, and ancient wisdom. And that is the holy trinity, the threefold sacred flame that we're bringing forward in ourselves. And so it's so important, exactly what you said, to start to strengthen that. And Reiki does that. Like, it helps you to, it was the first time where I was in a space where I could start to really tap into my intuition and allow it to flow for me. And even though I do teach it off the system, like especially the first 3 levels off the system I learned originally, I'm very intuitive when I do sessions too. I know you mentioned that the first type of Reiki you took, it was very like you said, Shakti, very feminine, right? Very like moving that way. So it's all really fascinating how we can get from point A to point B. Oh yeah. And I want to say this too. You were mentioning it earlier, how you got on this path. It was the same thing for me. I just became fed up. I was just so sick and tired. I went and did the thing the way that I was told to do it. And I was so miserable that I went, I'm not doing this anymore. And that's when I decided I was on the nursing path, or PA path. And I decided I was going to go into acupuncture. Started acupuncture school. I was in acupuncture school and went, oh, fuck, what if I can't find a job as an acupuncturist after I'm done? And that's when I was like, what can I do? I can start a business. What business can I do? I can start with Reiki. And I was like, okay. And it like magic, right? The red carpet unfolded, and it was beautiful. Very similar to you, because your business has it's exploded. My business exploded. Like, it's amazing when you're ready, what can happen.
I just talked to somebody about this yesterday. Actually, I was doing readings at a shop in Evanston, Illinois, and the most beautiful shop. And again, it's one of those connections that the community, the web of community that you find when you start living authentically to yourself. And but what was I saying?
Happens to me all the time, because you're following the thread.
Yes.
You're following the thread, and then you're like, oh wait.
Yeah. So I found it. So it's crazy to me, because when you start a business, you've got like the bare bones functions of what you should have. There's the legal stuff, there's the borderline tax evasion for legal reasons, that's a joke. Another person that you connected me to was May. Talked to her about my taxes yesterday. She's also
May's awesome. May's awesome. Yeah, she's my accountant.
When people are like, you have to have a 1 year, a 5 year, a 10-year plan for your business, and I'm like,
no.
When you're a spiritual person and you are living authentically, and this is your business, fuck the plan. Like, I realized I filed for my LLC in April of last year. It hasn't even been a full year.
I was a sole proprietorship until 2023. I didn't become an LLC, and I started my business in 2015. I just was a sole proprietorship. I didn't even do, and then eventually I was like, because I thought I might change the name. I wasn't sure if I was going to go with something else, but then I was like, okay, I'm going to stick with Crystal Lake Reiki LLC. My guide, speaking of which, did I ever tell you that story about how they told me I was going to name my business Crystal Lake Reiki? And I laughed at them. I was like, that's a boring name. I don't want to name it that. They're like, you're naming it that. And we got into like a little fisticuffs right about it. And finally, because I know that when they push like that, it's really important for me to listen. I listened, and I'm so glad that I did. For
somebody on your spiritual team is like a SEO tech god.
Exactly, because that's what happened after the fact. Is people would, because I'm in Crystal Lake, Illinois, as you know, like people would look Reiki Crystal Lake, and of course, bing, I would pop up, and it was like, oh, this makes sense. This is very practical, and also it's very clear. Crystal, I'm in Crystal Lake. It's Reiki, and if you don't know Crystal Lake, it's still pretty. crystals and lakes, and it's all, you know what I mean? The water element, the Mama Gaia element, it's all there. So, I mean, I did not have mentorship in my business for the first 5 years of my business. And I built my business to, it was consistent. It was from super part-time to consistent 5K to 7K months, cash months. And that was doing one-on-one Reiki sessions, teaching Reiki, and right, that's what I did. And it wasn't until 2020 with the pandemic, right, I came completely online in my business, and that's when I got like real mentorship. And that's when I cracked the 10K cash month, you know, that ceiling, which was like a fucking unicorn. I remember reaching for it and I would fall, reaching for it and I would fall. And I'm like, how do people do this? Well, you have to completely change your business model, first of all. And then once I got the 10K, then I had to stabilize it. And then once I got to 10K, I was like, okay, now I'm going for 20K. And same thing. I would reach for it and fall, reach for it and fall. And finally hit my 20K cash months too. And then hit one, and then, you know, had a okay month the next month, and hit it again. So not long after that. And it's really beautiful how it can build and grow as you build and grow. But so much of what I do, just like what you do, it's very led by spirit. It's led by our entourage. It's led by God consciousness and Mama Gaia herself. And we're just along for the ride. So if somebody had asked me and they're like, you have to figure out what you're doing in 5 years or 10 years, that would have collapsed me at that time, because I didn't know what I was going to do tomorrow. I was just flying by the seat of my pants and being led, and it worked like really well.
Mm-hmm. And I found too, because going back to like the safe people and that community and sisterhood and all of that, like I've always been gifted. Like the connection to God conscious. Okay, well, God conscious was a little rocky because I had to like bring
to work for that one.
Yeah, that was
a lot of religious conditioning. Yeah, I hear you.
So religious conditioning and, you know, separating divine masculine and God consciousness from like the toxic patriarchal bullshit that we've grown accustomed to. So like that's a whole other story.
It's a whole situation.
That's another podcast episode. But like having that connection to Mother Earth, having that connection to ascended masters and my higher self, like those have always been my strong points. Like effortless. I was always able to take off before I was able to like ground myself in my body. So now that I was in that moment where I was just like, okay, I got all these, relationship to my physical body and all this, like this is all here. The thing that has been missing though was those safe people, and not just doing it for me, but having that mindset that it's for my community. It's for the people that need it. And the amount of times that I will do shows and I will do expos and fairs, and the top things that I hear from people all the time is, I've never had a reading before. I've never gotten a reading or anything before. There's something about you that drew me to you. And I get it from all kinds. My favorite kind of readings to do now are skeptics. Like,
amazing.
They're just like, I want to see what this is about. I'm like, well, have you ever had readings before? And they go, not really. And I go, okay, well, let's see what we find, you know? And the second thing that I get a lot is I make people cry. Not like I make people cry. I make grown men cry. Like I'm talking like your man's man, like your biker dude with all the piercings and like,
amazing.
Yeah. And it's because I knew going into this that I wanted to hold space. I wanted to hold space for people that don't know what that means because they've never had it happen. And I always wanted to be very communal. Like they sit down for a reading with me, and it's not me just throwing cards at them, interpreting them. It's not just me talking at them. I want it to be very conversational. I want it to be very hands-on. I want them to ask questions along the way, because I found that when you get into these communities, it can be overwhelming, but also the biggest thing is because it doesn't look like this for me, they have it in their mindset that, well, I can't do it, or it's not for me, or I'm not able to do it. So I break it down and make it something that everyone can have at least some sort of contact or have some sort of like seed planted to get the
you ground it into in a way that they can actually apply it in their everyday life, and that it makes sense to them. And that is that's a gift. A lot of spiritual people do not know how to do that. So that's beautiful.
And I take the taboo out of it, you know, because people, okay, everyone's got it in their head. They either watched Charmed or they saw Harry Potter or they watched The Craft growing up. And again, it's this mindset of, okay, well, this is what Hollywood makes it look like. And then you've got certain witches online that kind of perpetuate it. And it becomes a matter of like, oh, well, it's very, how do I, commercialized?
Yes,
Very
heavily
commercialized.
commercialized. Well,
You know,
remember
and
when
now
you went to Salem and you were like, "Oh God,
yeah, it was ick.
ugh."
I had the
Yeah.
ick factor. I was so excited. I was so excited because I was just like, I'm going somewhere where there is like a huge hub of spiritual, witchy, like all the things. You know? I will eventually get to NOLA, but Salem was first on the
I've been to NOLA. It's magical. You'll love it.
I
Yeah.
need an adult tier adult to go with me to NOLA. Like, I know I could get into
Well,
trouble in NOLA. So I was
mm,
like, we're gonna go with Salem first.
yeah.
Like,
I lived in NOLA for about 8 months and it was an incredibly magical experience. So yeah, yeah.
I feel
We'll
like
go sometime.
going to NOLA would be an electric shock to my system. So
It's
in
pretty
like the best
cool.
way.
Yeah,
So
yep. I always say with NOLA, it either like chews you up and spits you out, or it's going to be like the most incredible expansion of your life. Like it really
mhm,
is an electric, like
I feel that.
something really incredible happens when you go to New Orleans. Like, yeah.
And in
So
the
it'll
right
happen.
time, the right space, it'll happen. Uh,
Totally.
but
Absolutely.
I also had high hopes for going to Salem.
Yes.
Like the history and all the stuff that's there, I was so excited. I set money aside because I'm like, I'm gonna get a reading done here, and these are all the places that I have like I need to hit up. I got there and I didn't like I bought some things, like things for my guide, like my altar, like small things, things for like souvenirs for friends, but like I did not feel called because the ick factor was there. And what I mean by the ick factor is it was so competitive. Like, in order to fully see how much there is in Salem, you need to get 3 separate maps because the shops aren't cohesive. The shops are like warring with each other. So it's like, here, I'm putting out my map, and all the shops that I'm in line with go on here, and we're going to leave all these other shops off. Well, then the other shop is
Wow.
like, well, we're going to do this, but with our shops. So, and I was just like, what is this? Like, for a community that is all about oneness and connecting with each other and connecting with nature, and we all have this witch wound that we're all trying to heal, but you're perpetuating this. Like,
Yes. The witch wound and the sisterhood wound,
yeah,
especially. Yeah.
like the witch wound, the sister wound, like all of this. Like, I I was disappointed. Like, I really was. I was hoping that I'd find that connection, and especially like I'm from the Midwest, like going over to like another part of the country to be able to have that like connection point with some. Now, I there are shops. There are shops that are genuine and you can feel it when you walk in. Like I
Yeah.
went to a shop called Pentagram, and I was like, the amount of books that they have here for all different pathways, like the amount of herbs that they have, that's just not your basic, like, here's lavender, here's rose petals. Like, it was amazing. And it was funny because I was telling Austin that, as, or my fiance Austin that, I was like, we were sitting there, we were looking at everything, and I'm like, this is a shop that it's is trying to create that, but it's so hard because of this community that they're in.
Being choked out. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was funny, I didn't realize that the owner was right around the corner stocking books. So she flies around the corner and was like, "Oh my God, like, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Do you want a job?"
Oh, she offered you a
Yeah, she
job.
offered me a job, and I was just like, "Oh shit. I wish."
That's
Like,
amazing.
yeah. So those communities, like, they still are out there, and it hurts, it's sad, but like I knew that that's not what I want to perpetuate. So it
Yes.
just burned that fire in me, that passion of I am doing everything in my power to not create that. And you know what? If there's people out there that still have that, great, but they're not for me. They're not
Exactly.
for the people that I'm here to create that safe space for.
Yeah.
And I wish them the best. I hope they find whatever it is that they're looking for. I hope, they'll eventually see how suffocating that kind of mindset is, but there's no
That's
space
a
for
that's
that.
a great word for it, is suffocating. And yeah, it's this idea of competition over collaboration. And moving forward, it needs to be collaboration. And we're seeing that, I'm primarily, because of COVID, I'm primarily based online now. And I have been, and I had babies, and it was just easier, and my business took off even more, right? And in the online space, whoa, like it's bad.
Oh
The
yeah.
competition, the people lying about things, people I've seen a lot of like cat fights online, where women especially are they're tearing down other women and criticizing, and it's really
You've had it
ugly.
happen too on your page. You post something and
Absolutely.
someone's like, I don't agree with that. And then it's just like, oh
Well,
shit.
and it's fun. Okay, you
Like,
absolutely don't, and I'm okay with people respectfully disagreeing with me,
yeah,
but there's a difference, right? Like
there is.
there's a
There is. Like,
yes, that
we don't have to agree on all areas of it. That's the beauty of it. That's what gives us
that's the
free
beauty of
will.
it.
Like,
Exactly. Yes, because
but
we're all coming together.
at least having the respect and having that kind of like ominous perspective of it. Like, I may not believe what you believe, or I may not agree with what you believe, but you know what? I respect and believe that you believe that. And that's okay. Like,
Right.
I
Or
will,
coming with curiosity, right? Like coming with curiosity and approaching each other that way, of like, oh, I don't agree with this. That's so curious. That's so interesting. I wonder what, and like I notice in myself more than ever, if I feel triggered by something or activated, what is that? Right. So there's a self-ownership piece, there's self-reflection. And a lot of people in the online space, they just attack each other. They just because they don't know how to actually hold themselves. And you mentioned holding space earlier. That's a huge part of what we do, is we hold space for people. That needs to be a space of non-judgment. That needs to be a space of where they can actually expand themselves, and they're not going to be controlled, manipulated, or siphoned from. And I had a mentor who ended up siphoning from me and my business, right? I trusted her. I brought her into my world. Her business was not doing well. And I was like, hey, in the spirit of community, I was like, I love this person. I trust this person. She's helped me a lot. I'm going to give her a leg up. But she was coming from an egoic place. She was coming from a space of jealousy. She wasn't coming open hearted. And you can tell it's all coming out in the wash, especially right now. Like a lot of coaches are leaving, spiritual people are leaving the online space, and I'm like, good riddance. Like my business is getting easier and easier because that herd is thinning itself out, but you can feel it, you can tell. And that's what I think what happened to you in Salem, is you're like, you could feel it in your body when people are not moving from a heart-centered place. They're not
and it took
devoted
me
to
a
that.
minute too to figure out what was it. Like,
Like,
why
what's
was I so
wrong?
disappointed? And I've had that too. I've had mentors that did. They siphoned my gifts from me. And the moment that I stood up for myself, and the moment I was like, hey, no, and you know, then I became the villain. Then
Yes.
I
In the drama
became,
triangle, the
yeah,
Cartman drama triangle. Yep.
yeah. And, or someone is like, hey, yeah, I want to come together in the spirit of collaboration. But it isn't in the spirit of collaboration. It's in very much that ego and what can I take. And the
Yes.
moment that you start living authentically yourself and your gifts start shining, then it's like you hold the mirror up to other people, and either they can celebrate you for being your authentic self and seeing you thrive, or that mirror turns on them and they see, oh, she's seeing success, she's doing this, why aren't I? And it's
Yes.
the work isn't being done there. And that's a lot too. And a lot of the practitioners are in these realms and they're not doing the work themselves.
Yes.
And you, as other practitioners, we can feel it, we can
Yes.
see it.
More than
But
ever. More
like,
than ever. We can feel it. We can see it. Like people know, even if you don't know at first, like you said, we do find out we're more discerning. People are more discerning now. And as a result, a lot of people they're crashing and burning because they're not moving from that authentic place. They're not doing the inner work. They're not questioning themselves, right? They're projecting. And you know how I feel about projection. Projection to me is energetic violence. And I feel it. That's why I started working with the acid dragons. That's what happened back in, was it 2023? I was running a Telegram container, and the acid dragons, they channeled in. They were like, I was like, oh, hey, what are you guys doing here? I had this incredible activation and clearing that they did. And it was all around projection. And about a week later, then that's what happened with my former mentor, is all this like ichor and just like, it was violent. And I'm okay with messy humans. I just want to put that out there. I'm okay with people disagreeing with me. I can walk myself through rupture and repair. I understand that process, but that's different than energetic violence. Right. That is, and it's so I had to remove her from that situation. But I was like, oh my God, like the amount of people that were projecting onto me, I didn't even know it, which is why I love acid dragons so much, because they help with
that feeling that you felt when you knew like, hey, this is not okay. That's what I had. That's what I realized. That's what I discovered. I'm like, why am I disappointed? Also, why do I feel like I'm kind of walking on eggshells here? And I'm like, oh, because I know this feeling. Because I know this feeling, because it's permeating off of everybody else that's here. And that's when I was just like, it's because of this. It's because of this. And I'm like, man.
So here's the trick though. We gotta really bring it home, because even though I had that experience, even though you had these experiences with mentors when you went to Salem, like all of this, I was in a cult, like, no, I still keep my heart open. That is my devotional process. And I know it's yours too. It's the de-armoring of the heart. And so we just become more discerning, right? Our sacred no and our sacred yes get more clear and tighter, and we seal the gaps, right? Because these are just reflections for us to know, like the contrast is there to know what we do want and we don't want. And so as a result, in my world, and I know your world too, the human beings are becoming safer and safer and safer. And the way I define safe human beings is people who can hold all of me, who truly want the best for me. They don't want to siphon, manipulate, or control me. And they are also people that if there's a rupture, they'll go through the repair process with me. Because, you know, any relationship, if the closer they get to your heart, there's going to be little things. And as long as you can move through that, like, it's beautiful. And that's what we need. That's what we need in the spiritual community, is to finally come to that place and learn how to do it. Because it's life-changing. It's so incredible. And we get to, like, we both walk away so happy in interactions because everyone's pouring into each other and nobody's walking away depleted. And it's so beautiful. And I desire more of that. And I know you do too.
Yeah. It's like, I got a taste of it and now I want more. So that means I need to create more of that.
Yes. You need to choose it. Yes.
That's the drive. That's the drive. Kind of like you build it and they will come. Like, I didn't see it out there. So I was like, okay, I have to start building it.
Yes. Yes. You're like like guides are speaking through you to me, because I'm so called around mothers, like spiritual mothers, neurodivergent mothers. And I'm seeing a sort of community out here, but I haven't quite found it yet. And I'm feeling like I need to build something for neurodivergent spiritual mothers. Yeah. Because, and I know, so
we're not far. I'm not a mother yet, so we're not putting that into the ether, but eventually.
Wow, but you are getting married, and so maybe babies will be, I don't know.
In the future.
Speaking of, and that might be another really good podcast episode, is to talk about how to prepare yourself and your business, and being a mother, especially being spiritual and neurodivergent, and community is huge. That's a huge part of that too. So but another time we'll talk about that. This has been just so fun. I love how we just riffed and got, deep into it. And is there anything like last minute things you want to just drop in the bucket?
If you're looking to follow me elsewhere in the social media stratosphere, if you look up at Madam Creatrix, whether that's on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok while it lasts, or even Blue Sky, that's Madam Creatrix, MADAME Creatrix. You can also see my website and see where I'm at. I also offer virtual stuff. That's at madamcreatrix.com. Even just to follow and vibe with me. I'm always dancing on there and making a utter fool of myself because authenticity, what you see online is what you get in person. So
It's true. I can vouch for that. You were totally the same person online as you are. Like, yeah, they're the same person. And I love that about you. And that's part of it too, right? That's dragon medicine, is the decompartmentalization of who you are. So you can just be who you are no matter what you're doing or where you're doing it. And it's so freaking beautiful. I just love you. We'll definitely do this again. We have so much to talk about, but thank you so much. Happy Valentine's Day. Thanks for spending this time with me.
Thank you
So
for
special.
having me. This was wonderful.
Oh, so fun. All right. Well, take care, everyone. And I'll catch you on the next one.